Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Some people are bad drivers. Now, if you... Steve, tell us something we don't know. No, if you drive, you know that there are some really bad drivers out there. And by the way, we've all known bad drivers. I remember a couple of kids I went to high school with who were horrible drivers. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's still bad drivers today. But here's a story. Vinny sent this to me out of New York. 23-year-old Long Island woman who had her driver's license suspended 65 times is arrested. Now, you go, wait a second, 23 years old. Let's suppose she got her license around the age of 16, and it's been suspended 65 times. How is that even mathematically possible? Well, I suspect she wasn't that good of a driver, and I suspect she's not that good of a driver. So this is from NBC New York, but she's 23 years old. She's from Long Island. She was arrested Tuesday morning for driving on a suspended license, if you can imagine that. That's according to local police there. She is of Medford, was taken into custody along eastbound Sunrise Highway shortly after 2 a.m. when police stopped her near exit 52. Now, you might say, Steve, did they stop her because they ran her plate and it came back suspended license? Oh, no. They stopped her for speeding because they said she was doing 95 miles an hour. So, pro tip, if you're going to speed, don't do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because number one, there's fewer cars on the road, so you're more likely to stand out. And number two, oftentimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's not a whole lot going on. So if you go blowing by a cop at 95 miles an hour, it's a good chance they're going to pull you over. Just, again, pro tip. So police stopped her 2000 Honda Accord. Apparently that's a key fact. That she was allegedly driving. And they found that she had 65 suspensions. And just in case you're curious, that includes at least one car accident in 2021 and 12 separate dates for those suspensions. So it sounds like some of those suspensions may have come from tickets that were not taken care of, and she may have had more than one ticket on a particular occasion. So let's suppose that she was speeding and she ran through a red light. She might get 2 tickets for that. And if she doesn't appear for that occasion where she's going to hear those 2 tickets in court, then they might suspend her license twice. I'm trying to help her here. I'm trying to figure this out. So officers pulled her over and they asked her for her license, and she didn't have it, said the police chief, adding that she didn't have it because it had been suspended more than 6 times. I'm just glad we were able to stop the individual before she ended up hurting somebody or hurting herself. And as noted, the key here is that she's out there driving around at 95 miles an hour at 2 o'clock in the morning. And even if she's, stone sober, it doesn't mean that she's necessarily a safe driver at that point in time. She never answered any of the summonses she had previously been given and was forced to surrender her license in February. But that, of course, did not stop her from getting behind the wheel. She was charged with aggravated unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle in the first degree and was also issued a summons for speeding. She's facing jail time now. Attorney information for her is not immediately known. There was no answer at the door of an address that was listed for her because the news actually went out and knocked on doors looking for her. There was no car in the driveway. Now, of course, if she was arrested on this occasion, they probably impounded the car at that moment. A defense attorney, not related to this case, but simply consulted, who represents a suspended driver, said he wonders why she never came to court to resolve her many tickets. Of course, it could be that they want to thumb their nose at the system, but there also may be an underlying issue with that person. Some people don't get it. Some people literally don't get it in the sense that they're given a ticket, and the ticket's a piece of paper that says, you must appear in court. And they go, oh, okay. And they put the piece of paper over here and realize that nothing's happened. And they're like, oh, okay, I can just ignore that. And don't understand that when they don't show up in court, what happens is the morning that she's supposed to show up in court, assuming it's a 9 o'clock call, about 10:30 or 11 o'clock, they'll start calling out cases where people didn't check in. And they'll call out her name, and she won't be there. And they'll say, oh, okay, suspend her license and issue a warrant for her arrest or whatever they do, depending on the tickets. And so she never heard any of that happen, never saw any of that happen. And so she's unaware of it for a little while, the first time. And then she may have gotten a thing in the mail. But the point is that if she doesn't see it happen, it's not real. The commissioner said that currently the DMV does not alert police about drivers with multiple suspensions, but he said police need to contact and connect with the DMV in order to make sure we know these people are out there and are on our radar. And that's the entire story. But the math on this is just comical because she's been driving for no longer than 7 years, maybe 8 if she got a learner's permit or something. But she's had her license suspended 65 times. 65 times. And despite the 65 suspensions, she's out driving around at 2 o'clock in the morning at 95 miles an hour. And so there's somebody there who didn't get the memo. And so I've mentioned before, in fact, I actually talked about this fairly recently, that I've been in court before and seen somebody at the lectern and the judge talking to them, and the person's there for driving while license suspended, DWLS. And the judge says, why is your license suspended? Do you know? And they go, yeah, I've got unpaid tickets. And the judge says, oh, okay, can you take care of those? And the person goes, yeah, I just need to get my paycheck, and a couple weeks down the road, I'll take care of all this stuff. Judge goes, okay, well, what do you want to do with the ticket today that you're facing today? I'll plead guilty, Your Honor. Okay, well, you're guilty, pay these fines, go to the court clerk, take care of it, call the next case. And I've been in a courtroom where there's a big window in the courtroom facing the parking lot. And I've been in a courtroom where we've actually watched the person walk out, get in their car, and drive off. And the judge commented on it, said, and I've seen people in court on multiple occasions. For them, that is where they're brought to court on a ticket for driving while license suspended, and they've been busted for that several times. And I've seen a judge comment on that and say, you've been pulled over several times and ticketed for driving while license suspended. And your license is still suspended? Yes. Can you take care of that? Do you know why there's... Well, they always know, yeah, because the Secretary of State's office in Michigan, our DMV, will send you a letter. It says your license is suspended. Here's why. Here's how to fix that. Now, it's possible to get some suspensions that you cannot fix that easily. Like if you were suspended for drunk driving, it's possible to suspend you for 60 days or 90 days. And during that time, you might have a restricted license that allows you to go like to and from treatment or to and from work or something, maybe, but not always. So it might be that it's a suspension that you cannot take care of. But I have seen it in court, I'm guessing 5 or 10 times, where somebody's in front of the judge, driving while license suspended, and the judge points out that you've been pulled over for this before. And think about how often you come into contact with the police. Now, I mentioned that 6 months ago, I got pulled over by a police officer who walked up to my car, said hello, and it was New Year's Eve, I believe, right around New Year's. And he said, oh, we're just looking for drunk drivers. And he said that he thought I hit the fog line at one point, but I didn't. But he was just pulling people over. And as soon as he saw that I wasn't drunk, he waved me on. But how does somebody have that many contacts with the police to where they get 65 tickets in the first 7 years of driving? Or 2 or 3 driving while license suspended. Now, I know some people are going to go, but Steve, it's possible that if it's a small community, that the police might recognize that person and go, you know something, I bet they didn't get that fixed. I'm going to pull them over and see. But the interesting thing is quite often the driving while license suspended is accompanying another ticket, meaning a person will come into court and they won't be there just for that. They'll be there for speeding and driving while license suspended. Disobey stop sign, driving while license suspended. Running a red light and driving while license suspended. So that's the thing that strikes me, is how often these people who have these kinds of things on their records keep getting pulled over. And I assure you that in the comments below this video, I'll get several people who are going to say, Steve, I'm in my 60s, I'm in my 70s, I might even be in my 80s. And the entire time I drove, never got pulled over once. Or got pulled over once or twice, never got a ticket. And there are people out there like that, who managed to just drive safely, but with the flow of traffic, stay out of trouble. And, it's not always possible to go your entire life without having anything happen to you. I've been rear-ended 5 or 6 times. Stopped at a light, no place I can go, look in my rearview mirror, and I see a car come up and hit me. And one of them was just 4 years ago, $9,000 in damage to my 2019 Ford Explorer, person on their phone. But, I didn't get a ticket for that, but I did talk to a cop. So I've met people who say, Steve, I've never even spoken to a police officer because of a traffic situation in any context. And that's great. That's great. But I suspect that most people, if you do a lot of driving, eventually you'll run into a police officer somewhere along the road. But will you run into them 65 times in the first 7 years you're driving? Probably not. So this is some kind of record. But a judge needs to actually, assuming these facts bear out in court, a judge needs to actually explain to this person, when we tell you your license is suspended, we mean it. And so what we'll do right now to make sure that this kind of sinks in is let you sit in a jail cell for a couple days. And then when you get out, we're going to remind you that the next time it happens, you can sit in there for 2 weeks or 30 days. We'll see what happens, because underlying all of this is she ain't that good of a driver. And so she needs to actually learn how to drive a little more safely and also follow the rules that the rest of us have to live by. So there you go. 23-year-old Long Island woman who had driver's license suspended 65 times is arrested. From NBC New York, and Vinny sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Sometimes all you need is a great friend and a tank of gas.